All right, we're going to dive right in and ask a really uncomfortable question. Are all these amazing AI tools that are supposed to make us smarter actually doing the exact opposite? I know, it sounds crazy, but some new and frankly pretty alarming scientific research suggests they just might be. So we're going to break it all down. But first, let me ask you something. Just think about it for a second, right now. How many phone numbers do you actually know by heart? Like, could you dial them from memory if you had to? If you're struggling to come up with more than maybe one or two, well, you are definitely not alone. And that little fact, it's the perfect way to get into what we're talking about today. I mean, think about it. Just 10 years ago, most of us had this mental Rolodex of phone numbers for our family, our friends. We actually navigated our cities using landmarks, building a map inside our heads. But today, we've totally offloaded those tasks. We don't remember the number, we just tap a contact. We don't remember the route, we just blindly follow that blue line on the screen. And look, on the surface, that seems like a small shift, but it's pointing to something much, much bigger. And that brings us to this really inconvenient question, right? We all assumed AI would be this incredible tool to augment our intelligence, to make us better. But what if all this convenience is, for lack of a better word, making us dumber? It's a tough pill to swallow, but let's see what the actual science has to say about it. Okay, so we're moving past just, anecdotes about phone numbers and getting directions. Scientists are now using some pretty serious tools, like EEGs, to measure exactly what's happening inside our brains when we use AI. And let me tell you, the results are, well, they're pretty shocking. So check this out. This visualizes the results of a recent study, and it's fascinating. Researchers had 3 different groups write an essay, and they measured their brain activity the whole time. The first group, using no tools at all, their brains were firing on all cylinders, super high engagement. The group using Google Search was kind of in the middle, but the ChatGPT group, whoa, their brain activity was the lowest, and not just by a little, but by a huge margin. And the researchers' conclusions were, to put it mildly, stark. They said the brains of the people using ChatGPT were, and this is a direct quote, effectively switched off. And it gets worse. Over the course of this multi-month study, these participants got lazier and lazier, eventually just resorting to copy-pasting. And the real kicker? When they were asked later what they had written, they couldn't even remember. They had completely outsourced the entire thinking process. And look, this isn't just some one-off, isolated finding. Nope. A huge study from Microsoft and Carnegie Mellon found this direct negative link. Basically, the more faith people put in AI, the less critical thinking they did on their own. Their actual problem-solving skills got weaker. Think about that. So the big question is, why? Why is this happening? Well, to really get it, we have to understand this fundamental paradox about how our brains work. They are these incredibly powerful machines, but they are also, by their very design, incredibly lazy. And this idea right here explains it perfectly. We are what scientists call cognitive misers. See, our brain makes up just 2% of our body's mass, but it hogs 20% of our energy. It's an energy hog. So to conserve that precious energy, it's literally evolved to always look for the easiest path, the mental shortcut. But here's the problem. Real learning, real growth, that stuff doesn't happen on the easy path. It requires friction. It requires struggle and challenge. And you know what? This is not a new thing. This started way before ChatGPT. Way back in 2011, researchers identified something they called the Google effect, or digital amnesia. What they found was that our brains figured out, hey, if this information is super easy to look up online, why waste energy storing the information itself? So instead, our brain just stores the path to find it. We don't remember the fact, we just remember how to Google it. So if our brains need this mental friction, what does that even look like? Well, what's one of the absolute best, most demanding workouts for our brain? Turns out, it's good old-fashioned navigation. I'm talking about the complex process of actually building a mental map of where you are. It is so powerful, it can physically change the structure of your brain. You want proof? Check out this landmark study from back in 2000. It looked at the brains of London taxi drivers way before GPS was a thing. Now, to get their license, these cabbies had to memorize a staggering 25,000 streets. The result? Their hippocampus, which you can think of as the brain's internal GPS and its memory librarian, was physically bigger than the average person's. Now flip that around. Heavy GPS users today, they show much weaker personal navigation skills because that part of the brain is just not getting a workout. It's being underutilized. Okay, and here's the crucial point. This is not just about whether you can get home without your phone. It's so much bigger than that. That same part of the brain, the hippocampus, is also absolutely vital for forming new memories, for your imagination, and for connecting different ideas together. So letting our navigation skills get weak could have these ripple effects across our entire ability to think. All right, so after hearing all of that, it's really easy to feel a little panicked, right? Like the only answer is to throw our smartphones in a lake and boycott all AI. But look, that's just not realistic. And honestly, it's not the solution. The real answer is we have to learn how to use these incredible tools without letting our own minds waste away. I mean, trying to just abstain from AI in the world we live in today, that's a losing battle. It would be like trying to find a job 20 years ago by proudly announcing you don't know how to use a computer. The goal is not to fall behind. The goal is to figure out how to integrate these tools smartly. So, what's the best way to think about this? Well, it comes down to a simple, super powerful analogy that we all get. For our bodies, we know it's use it or lose it, right? We have cars and elevators, so we have to be intentional about going to the gym. Well, guess what? The exact same principle applies to our brain. So here's a path forward, a way to do this right. First, treat AI like a co-pilot, not an autopilot. That means you are still flying the plane. Use it to enhance what you're doing, not to do it for you. For example, ask it to brainstorm 5 different headlines for your report. Don't ask it to write the report. Ask it to check your code for errors. Don't ask it to write the whole script from scratch. See the difference? It's a powerful assistant for your thinking, not a replacement for it. Second, and this is huge, master the fundamentals before you try to automate a skill. Think of a master chef. They might use a fancy food processor to save time, sure, but you better believe they know how to perfectly chop an onion by hand. You should learn how to structure a good presentation or write a professional email all on your own first. That knowledge builds mental frameworks in your head that AI just can't give you. And finally, you have to actively seek out a little cognitive friction. Your brain needs challenges to stay strong. So every now and then, try navigating a familiar part of town with your GPS turned off. Or instead of just asking an AI for a summary, go read a challenging article on a topic you know nothing about. Just try to recall a piece of information from memory before you immediately Google it. These little acts of mental effort, they're like push-ups for your brain. They're what keep your mind sharp. So in the end, it really all comes down to this. We absolutely can have the incredible efficiency of AI and keep the sharpness of our own minds. It's not an either-or situation, but it does require conscious efforts. We don't have to choose between convenience and intelligence. So the question I want to leave you with is a personal one. We've established it. Your brain is a muscle. So how are you training it today?